Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. After the Alaska summit, European leaders quickly reached out to President Trump for an hour-long call, signaling concern over the summit's optics as he welcomed Vladimir Putin with red carpets and fanfare. The discussions, which included President Zelenskyy and key European figures, focused on the implications for Ukraine, transatlantic unity, and the U.S.'s role in confronting Russian aggression. Joining us in the studio to break down the symbolism, strategy, and consequences of this extraordinary summit is Wojciech Cegielski, foreign correspondent from Polish radio. Good to have you in the studio.
Hello. Thank you very much.
I want to begin. Just in the last really few hours, less than that, we had the Europeans gather, key European leaders, including President Macron, President Nawrocki, also NATO Secretary Mark Rutte. What, at this point, will that achieve? I mean, imagine yourself in this room. I know there'll be a joint statement, but what can they realistically achieve to push forward Ukraine's case more into the realm of understanding for President Trump?
Well, I guess apart from political issues, the key issue here is the mood of President Trump. We saw it on Alaska during this night, that Vladimir Putin has played Donald Trump, has made his kind of charm offensive on Donald Trump. And Donald Trump as well was trying to build some kind of charm offensive on Vladimir Putin as well. So as we remember what was happening in this certain case during the last couple of months, so there was the famous or unfamous Oval meeting at the end of February, when the mood of Donald Trump was rather to stick to Russia. Then Donald Trump realizes that Vladimir Putin is still bombing Ukraine, so he became a bit nervous on Putin. He started to get more weapons into Ukraine, but right now I guess the mood has changed over during this summit because of this charm offensive. Mm-hmm. So I guess European leaders have convinced Donald Trump politically and strategically why US should help Ukraine and why US should push to Putin to agree for a ceasefire on the Ukrainian term that doesn't make any kind of fruits right now, because basically we don't know if there is any effect of this summit, mm-hmm. any real effect of this summit apart of two leaders met and apart of probable next meeting Trump and Putin maybe in Moscow, as Putin said. So basically, I guess if I would be there in the room with the European leaders, I would try to convince them to make another charm offensive on Donald Trump, because that's the only way it works. And we saw it during the last couple of months. There is no arguments, like political arguments, strategical arguments. It doesn't work. Because the game is on a completely different level, so that's rather the psychology than the sticking to the facts, sticking to the numbers situation on the ground.
Okay, I want to talk about that charm offensive in a moment, but I'm curious because we're also hearing from the last on that call and also certain statements, also listening to our correspondent in Kiev, that very much that Trump is now in favor of pushing a peace deal directly, a peace agreement. Now that has changed from what many European leaders and also what Ukraine has said must first come, which is a ceasefire. So how does this complicate things? And this is evidence of Donald Trump once again changing his mind. How do we interpret this latest bit of news?
I guess the interpretation is still the same. Donald Trump, it's many experts, many even politicians recently said that it all depends on who is the last at the ear of Donald Trump. And this time it was Putin who was at the last at Donald Trump. So that shift is because of charm offensive by Putin. So again, it's we are in the point, I guess, that nobody can expect what would happen. So basically, the role of the European leaders right now will be to push the ceasefire or the end of the war, whenever we call them, but on the Ukrainian, on the circumstances and on the conditions of Ukraine/Europe's interest.
Mm-hmm. And also on this call, we heard that between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelenskyy, there's an invitation. He is due early next week or so to travel to Washington, D.C. I mean, that meeting 6 months ago was very much, I think, by all accounts, very uncomfortable and not very good in terms of backing Ukraine. They have since then met, but what can we expect from this meeting now coming up in those days? Is this going to be critical? What kind of language and what kind of expectations do you have of that?
One and only thing we know for sure right now is that it will be particularly tough for Volodymyr Zelenskyy. It's a politics and the psychology. Imagine yourself being a leader of the country which is at war. So he's just tired of this. And he's the one who's carrying on his shoulder the burden of this war. And there's a psychology. He was in the February. He remembers, I guess, very well what happened those days when he was invited for this Oval Office meeting. And he has to be over it. That's from how Volodymyr Zelenskyy is acting since February, we could understand that he's learning a lot from this Oval Office meeting because his attitude to Donald Trump is different. Even if Donald Trump says something which is false, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is not correcting him as he was correcting J.D. Vance, and that's what the flashing point in February. So his role will be critical, of course, but the hardest thing is that, as for now, maybe some European leaders would disclose some of the details of the meeting with Putin if Donald Trump wants to convey this message. Mm-hmm. But for now, we don't know the details of what was happening in Alaska. We know we've been seeing just this strange press conference, or rather two political statements.
Really, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the hardest thing for Zelenskyy is that he doesn't have the full knowledge of what kind of conditions right now does he have. So basically, his role will be to stay calm, to play the same cards as he was playing with Trump with the last 2 or 3 months, let's say, which means make a charm offensive, to be nice, and on the other hand, to push for his agenda. We don't know if the two leaders, Putin and Trump, has discussed the details in the ceasefire, whatever it would be or not, because we are not able to read it from the statements of the two leaders. If Volodymyr Zelenskyy would have some deeper knowledge, I guess it will be easier for him. But the hardest thing for him is that he's operating in the area which is completely unknown for him in terms of what was talked through in Alaska.
At the same time, I'm curious, we've mentioned this word now a few times, as charm, or the concept of charm offensive. If we look at those pictures from Alaska, I mean, the red carpet for, an indicted war criminal, if we look at certain ICC records there, someone who was a pariah for many years, now back into the diplomatic fold. How much is this emboldened Putin to do more? And how much, as much as we see this chumminess between, even if we look at the optics, right? I mean, sitting next to Trump, but also being invited into the limousine, speaking also longer than Trump did at that press statement. What do you make of the optics of all that? Who's won
speaking first, which is diplomatically, strange situation, because usually the host is talking first. So it emboldened Putin a lot. Putin was smiling all the time. Putin was making some gestures. That was evident. It was evident that he was emboldened because of the invitation that was first, and because how it was done, what was going on, red carpet, limousine, etc. So right now he's on the top. The ball is in its hand, in his hand, not the hand of Ukraine or Europe. So this is why if Europe wants to take this ball back, or Ukraine wants to take this ball back, they should do some kind of charm offensive, because that's the only way it works.
Yeah.
But for sure, this is a huge success for Vladimir Putin, a politician who was indicted, but also who haven't been invited on the world scene, on the Western scene, so to say, since the invasion started in 2022. Right now he's with President Trump, and the pictures will be present in the media and the internet everywhere for a long time. Nevertheless, it will be pictures or memes, whatever it will be his great success. So he's definitely emboldened by it. And Trump, let's also see on the. Trump was never liked to speak that short and not taking questions from journalists, because he loves it. Mm-hmm. He loves taking questions. He loves to talk to the media, wherever these are fake media, as he called it, or his friendly media. So he was his failure. It was his failure at the way the press conference, or rather the statement, were conducted, and all the visit of Putin in Alaska was conducted. So basically, we are in a very tough situation. One could say that it's good that Trump didn't promise Putin something which Ukraine has to concede. So the Crimea is still an ongoing issue, I guess. But it will be particularly hard right now at this moment to achieve something for Ukraine and for Europe. I guess if we would like to see some positive result for this war, not the occupation for Crimea and Donbass, it would take weeks, if not months.
And those are the weeks that Donald Trump has now essentially given Putin. He said on the plane afterwards, on Air Force One, that this could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but those sanctions or anything harsher has not materialized. Let's say if they
so
were...
we are starting from the beginning.
I want to ask you one more just at the end. I mean, at the same time, back to European relations as well. Also on a Fox interview after the Alaska summit, Trump very much called Russia a great power, Ukraine is not. I mean, with that kind of statement, I mean, how is that going to also impact any sort of future dealings as well between the United States and Europe in all this?
It will be much tougher to deal with Trump for Europe, whether it's Poland, France, UK, even I guess if it's Italy or Hungary, although Prime Minister Orban has said that the world is safer today than it was, much safer than yesterday. But it will be much tougher because Trump, even before the summit, on the plane when he flew to Alaska, he told journalists, Europe would not tell me what I have to do. So that means that there is a shift again towards Putin for the reasons we've just discussed. So that's why it will be particularly tough to Europe to deal with Trump or any other issue, because dealing with Trump is a personal issue, as we've seen it many times, even with Zelenskyy. It's also the case from 2018 from the Hunter Biden case, which this Oval Office meeting was also overshadowed by it in some part. So if Europe or Ukraine wants to get something for them, wants to realize or make a strategic deals with Trump, it would take much longer right now, because basically we've just made a step backward, right. a huge step backward right now after this meeting. Having also in mind, that's what I've already mentioned, that at least what was also very present in the Western media, that at least it's good that Trump hasn't promised anything to Putin.
Right. So we have to be satisfied with something, but it seems to be murky, and there still seems to be much ahead that wasn't decided. But look, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Guest in the studio, Wojciech Cegielski from Polish Radio. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on World Talks, but more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away. Bye.